Hey, it's me, Althazar, and welcome to another video. In this one, we're going to be preparing you for the upcoming Coalition event, the Great Tournament. So this weekend's Coalition event is a PvP event, it is a standard event, and it is a Coalition event. So for this one, we've got 5 charges, 1 initial charge, 6 max charges, and an 8-hour recharge time. So the initial buy-in to this event really isn't too bad, but you do have to make sure that you're going to be available to play those 5 charges during each of the resets. So that's one thing to consider. So let's go ahead, go over the nodes, go over a few cards or planeswalkers that I would suggest you target, make sure that you have, and just help prepare you for the event itself. So the first node is a white, blue, black node. It's the Dream Crafting node. This one, you need to win the fight. You need to have 20 or more cards in your opponent's graveyard at the end of the fight, and you need to cast 3 or more artifact supports during the fight. The perma support for this is actually very helpful. So when a support you control with the artifact or enchantment subtype gains shields, destroy the top 4 cards of each player's library. Then the first creature card in your hand gains 3 mana. So really here, there's actually a planeswalker that totally dominates this particular node, and that's going to be Karn, Scion of Urza. Hopefully you had the opportunity to pick up Karn during the planeswalker sale. If you haven't, it's still going at the time that I'm recording this video, but not for much longer. So Karn's third ability is going to create a token that, and I'm just reading the important part of it, has at the end of your turn, if you control 2 or more supports, a support you control gains 2 shields. So when you take a look here at this perma support on Dream Crafting, when a support you control with the artifact or enchantment subtype gains shields, destroy the top 4 cards of each player's library. So that means that if you've got 2 supports on the board and you're just focusing on artifacts, then what you can do is you can actually just entirely mill out your opponent's deck for the millstone objective by having supports on the board. You don't need to run anything else that does that, and you don't need to dim your deck down at all for that. That also means that it really doesn't matter what cards you have at your disposal, so long as you have a few supports that you can just throw in your deck. Now, because you need to cast 3 or more artifact supports, I would suggest that the supports you put in your deck are artifacts so you can complete both objectives, but this one really isn't going to be too bad if you use Karn. Our second node, being Inhuman. This one is blue, red, green, and the objectives are going to be to win the fight, summon 5 or more creatures that are giants, goblins, or merfolk, and then researcher draw 15 or more cards during a single fight. For being Inhuman, it's going to give you Resourceful 2, that's the permanent support, and it's going to convert 2 gems to your planeswalker colors for each non-human creature you control. There's a pretty simple way to beat this node, but unfortunately and get all the objectives, but unfortunately it requires that you have a very specific card. And that card is Krenko. If you've got Krenko at your disposal, then this node is going to be a lot easier for you. So Krenko has, whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1/+1, then create X goblin tokens, where X is this creature's power. Now what you'd want to do is you actually want to pair Krenko, who's going to be creating all of the tokens you need, with the green support from M20. Season's Harvest, I think it's called. No, I need to get rid of Krenko. I'm sorry. I always forget one step. Season of Growth. Oh well. So this one's going to have, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So just Krenko and Season of Growth will combine to complete all of your objectives for this node if you have the 2 of them. So if you don't have them, I'm going to be making an Achieving Perfection for this event, so don't worry, I will have all that up for you. Next, Cooking Contest. I actually really love this node. I had a lot of fun with it. So this one, you have to use blue, black, green planeswalkers. You need to win the fight, you need to create 4 or more food tokens during the fight, and you need to gain 15 or more life during the fight. The perma support is going to make it so that whenever you create a food token, you convert 2 gems to your planeswalker's colors, then lose 2 life. And when a support card you own with the food subtype is destroyed, sorry, I still have that cough, your first creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So for this one, there's actually a common that really just takes care of this entire node for the most part, and that's Gingerbread Cabin. So Gingerbread Cabin is a land. It's 10 mana. It's going to convert gems to green, and when it enters the board, if there are 8 or more green gems, create 2 food tokens. So if you run Gingerbread Cabin and you have other things that help fetch lands, something like Death Sprout or something like any of the mythic land pull cards, or even some of the uncommon land pull cards, you can just use this as your only food card and then just keep the rest of your deck strong. So this one really isn't too bad. Gingerbread Cabin is the way to go for completing your objectives. Node 4, Chivalrous Tournament. Win the fight. Oh, sorry, it's white, black, red. You need to win the fight. You need to summon 5 or more knights, soldiers, or warriors, and you need to deal 15 or more damage during the fight. You've really got 2 ways to go here for completing all of the objectives. No, I did it again with the gingerbread. Silly me. You're going to want to use Precinct Captain, which is an event reward, so hopefully most of you have it. It comes from the white version of the War of the Spark event that gives exclusive cards. It's a 13 mana creature. It's a 4/4 with double strike. It is a human soldier, so just playing it counts toward the army objective. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to your opponent's Planeswalker, create a lifelink soldier token. Then a Vanguard support you control gains 1 shield. So this here is going to be the easiest way for pretty much anyone to go ahead and complete both portions of the objective for the node. I would really ignore the permanent support here. It's basically useless. So when a buffed creature you control attacks, your knight cards gain 2 mana. I really wouldn't go knights. I'd go soldiers. I'd use Precinct Captain and March of the Multitudes. Our last node is Call to Adventure. So this is a white, red, and green node. And in this one, you need to cast 4 or more cards with Adventure during the fight and cast 4 or more creatures with power 3 or less. Really, there are 2 cards with Adventure that I'm going to pretty strongly suggest you use for this. And one of them is a mythic, so I'm sorry if you don't have it, but Beanstalk Giant is huge for this node. No pun intended because it's a giant. But you're going to want to use the Fertile Footsteps for completing that cast 4 or more with Adventure, and then cast it as the giant itself. Casting both halves of the card both count toward casting 4 or more cards with Adventure. So you can really just get away with playing 2 Beanstalk Giants with both sides, and that's fine. The other card that I would actually suggest for this is a common. It's a little black creature called Foulmire Knight, and it's a 1/1 with Berserker and Death Touch for 6 mana, which is very solid. It's going to serve as removal, so it's really not going to weaken your deck very much. And then the other side of it is going to make you lose a life to draw a card for 3 mana. So this isn't a bad side, and this side is awesome. So really, you can get away with either of the 2 cards. I very well may wind up running both. So that means I might use Garruk for this node. We'll see. Now, as for the rewards for this event. Boom! As for the rewards for this event, oh, one more thing. Don't use Lucky Clover. This will create an infinite number of copies of your creatures and crash your game. Don't do it. All right, rewards. The rewards are paltry. So progression rewards are going to give you at most 5 pinkies, 40 yellows, and 3 Eldraine booster packs. For newer players, this is amazing. Go ahead, make sure that you complete progression. Get your 3 booster packs. This is really going to help you out. This is one of the nice things they've done for rewards for the events, is they've increased the booster pack rewards. So that'll help you build your collection. Individual rewards, if you get a perfect score, or you're just first place in your bracket, you can expect 5 pinkies. Yeah, 5 pinkies. The Eldraine booster pack is nice, but you get that for being at a 100th place in a 3,000 player bracket. Really, the individual rewards here are mostly pointless, except for booster packs for newer players. Once again, target those boosters. They're nice. But for players with larger collections, no. And then finally, we've got coalition rewards. These ones are okay. Like, these are actually kind of nice rewards. However, to really get a lot out of this event, you really want to make sure that you're in a top 25 coalition, as that's really going to get you the biggest bang for your buck. So all in all, the event isn't the most rewarding event, but it does have a lot of fun nodes. So it's a great way to challenge yourself. So get yourself ready for it. I will be putting together Achieving Perfection videos for all of the nodes, and I'll see you then.